Welcome to Loaded and Rolling. I'm your host, Thomas Wasson. It's a new year and same background. Maybe a little bit more lit up, but first Loaded and Rolling of 2024. Welcome back, everyone. I'm going to have a really fun episode today. Big topic is going to be, of course, cybersecurity. And those of you who are just catching up or have been living under a rock, it has finally impacted the freight industry over the past few years. You got to pay attention to the few cases, but large cybersecurity attacks are on the rise. And so I felt it was important that we need to talk to experts and hopefully today we'll learn a little bit more about not only what is going on in cybersecurity and how it's impacting the supply chain, but also what to look for and hopefully maybe what to do about it if you can. Preparation is key. But without further ado, let's go and bring on our guest, welcoming Antwan Banks, Director of Enterprise Security at the National Motor Freight Traffic Association, or NMFTA. Gotta use my phonetics on this. It's like when you're on a phone. November, Mike, Foxtrot, Charlie, Tango Alpha. Antwan, pleasure to have you on. First off, tell us a little bit about yourself and what the association does.
Well, I'm from Atlanta, born and raised in Atlanta, ex-military, did 22 years in the military in the U.S. Army, where I did cybersecurity. Fell in love with cybersecurity, was a part of their first cyber warrior program. When I retired, I got out and came back as a DoD civilian. Went out to the CDC, worked for CNN, the Rapid Transit Authority here in Atlanta, the rail system, and then now I'm over here at the National Motor Freight Traffic Association, where we're doing research and training and providing best business practices and membership awareness on cybersecurity issues, but more importantly, remediation measures and things to help people prepare, to defend against cyber attacks.
And I think that's such an important topic, and given your experience as well, one thing I'm curious about just starting off, being from government as well as in the private sector and even between industries, is the cybersecurity being viewed the same across all levels, or is this something where specific things like maybe transit or the DoD are looking at it from different lenses when we're even just trying to wrap our head around the concept?
Well, I will say that DoD and the federal government probably has a more focus, a higher priority, mainly because they're guarding our nation's secrets. And so cybersecurity kind of depends on the crown jewels. If you have crown jewels, nation state secrets, secret recipes, a lot of money, then your security is kind of associated with that, with your crown jewels. And so the trucking industry traditionally didn't see themselves as a valuable target, but now they are. And so, if I had to say, yes, the military and the government will probably, I hate to use the word light years, but probably light years ahead on their cybersecurity efforts and preparation.
Well, they have their crown jewels were identified, and we're looking. I like the concept of crown jewels because it does visualize in terms of what am I needing to protect? What can I not let you access? For trucking, historically, were there any specific crown jewels? And the second part is, now that thieves are interested, have they found specific crown jewels that they're looking for?
Well, it depends on who's doing the hacking. If you're a company that you're only moving, normal freights like maybe drinks and fuel, then your crown jewels may just, to a criminal, your crown jewels could be just to put ransomware on your network so they can monetize that attack. If you're moving hazardous waste, weapons, things that are sensitive, then they may want to use your geolocation to isolate their vehicle so they can steal your cargo. So, most organizations should do something called a risk assessment, determine their risk appetite and what they consider their crown jewels, and put security around those crown jewels that is, commemorative of what their crown jewels are.
I think that's interesting because there was a recent report I'd read earlier today that cargo theft was up like 56 or 57% year over year. And when I worked in trucking and transportation, it felt like my customer bill-tos and my facility information wasn't that big of a deal. I'm just moving commodities. But is this one of the new? I guess we're looking at what are we looking at right now? Thieves, certain ones are going to target that information and then say, okay, now I know where you're picking up. I'm going to have someone spot it, and then that's the first step of a process that could lead to theft and other problems.
Yeah, we've seen some rises in cargo thefts in Mexico. Hadn't heard a lot in the United States, but cyber criminals are looking for any way to monetize their attacks. So whether or not they're conduct ransomware on your systems, something called business email compromise, where they convince an employee to transfer money to an unauthorized bank account, or whether or not they just steal your cargo or set up a fake website. Um, have your customers go to that fake websites, put in username and credentials, and then they come back in and change the routing information. So they're just looking for any ways to monetize an attack. They're always, I hate to say it, a step or two ahead of us, and we just have to play catch up, or put controls in place to try to minimize the effects.
And looking at so with ransomware is one big one, spoofing and phishing with emails. Is that something that does it matter on the size? So when you're looking to say if there's a profile and I'm a large carrier or even a small carrier, should they all try to worry about the same things or the same approaches, or do cybersecurity folks or the cyber thieves are trying to target based on size? Like maybe they're more susceptible to something.
Well, you have a large group of hackers. Well, I say different hackers are hacking for different reasons, and most of them are looking for just targets of opportunity. So if you are low hanging fruit, and they could put ransomware on your system and get $10,000, $100,000, then you are a target. So most of the attacks are similar. They're going to use something called social engineering, where they're using vishing and smishing, or standing up lookalike domains to trick your employees and customers. So they use some of the same techniques. It's just a smaller company may have less at stake than a larger company.
And I'm curious about that as well because I feel like it opens a whole new doors, especially in billing. When I was a broker as well as working for a carrier, it was something where if you just received an email to a specific distribution, it was really easy to just assume it's okay or assume this link is okay because it matches what you're typically doing if you're getting paid or maybe your factoring company. Is that something where are you seeing a rise in maybe in that? Because that'd be one of my biggest fears is if I'm looking to attack somebody, I'm just going to send a bunch of fake spoofs from a customer that already hacked your system. I'm going to say, hey, pay me this. I need my $200. I haven't got my payment yet.
Business compromise email is a very profitable business, probably in the $1 trillion a year business. My last organization got hit. I mean, almost every organization I've been at, and I'm gonna knock on wood, we haven't been hit, have been subject to business email compromise. Whether or not it is sending an email to the payroll personnel saying I'm an employee and I've changed my bank, send my check to this new bank. Whether or not it's a third party customer saying we've changed our bank, send our new invoice payment to this bank, or whether or not I've seen cases where artificial intelligence is used to sound like a CEO or a CFO calling down to the finance department saying we're going to conduct business with this other company, wire them some money, some trust money or earnest money to let them know we're serious about this business, and they transfer the money because they sounded just like that CEO or CFO. So criminals use a wide range of ways to attack a company, but yes, transferring funds, we call it business email compromise, is a very big profitable attack.
And looking at your organization as well, NMFTA, LTL partial shipments, a lot more moving parts. Compared to full truckload and other groups, is that adding extra layers of complexity? Because when I used to do full truckload, I had one shipment and one customer billed to. I could pull it up and say, oh, this is fine. If like an LTL or a partial, I may have so many different customers in there. All it takes is me to get careless, and I'm just paying a person because it was one of the 5, 10, 20, or 50 or whatnot that was inside that same box, and it can get really complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I would say smaller companies have a smaller footprint, and so they probably don't need to have a complex cybersecurity structure, but they still need cybersecurity because again, the goal of a company is to stay in business and to remain profitable. And if a hacker can put ransomware, send payments to a fraudulent account, they can potentially impact that business bottom line and cause them to go out of business, could ruin their reputation. So they still have to worry about it, but they may not have to put the same amount of resources. Smaller company may not need to put the same amount of resources as a larger carrier.
And before we go into things to do if you have something happen, looking at the nature of who is conducting cyber attacks, is this something that is identifiable state, non state, or is there a specific thing to definitely look out for? Or is it all over the place in terms of what are the types of folks trying to do these, not only penetrations, but fraud?
I mean, to the everyday customer, kind of hard to tell who's doing it. But what I will say is most attackers fall into four categories. You have your nation state. Almost every industrialized country has a cyber warfare branch. Their main goal is to gain geopolitical advantage. You have your people who are still in intellectual property. So your competitors, whether or not it's China or somebody in the United States who needs to steal some of your secrets, they're trying to hack for intellectual property. Of course, you have your cyber criminals. They're looking to monetize, whether or not through ransomware, extortion, or just embarrassing you and putting you out of business. And then you have your hacktivists. And now because of the tension in the Middle East, geopolitical situations, people are trying to advance a cause. So they may want to hit the trucking industry just to cause the U.S. pain, or just because a particular company may be doing business with Israel. So there are different people who are doing hacks, and then you got folks who are just graduated from school. They want to sharpen their skills, and they out there just looking for targeted opportunities just to see what they can do.
I remember the old days back when kids did is like SQL or these are script kiddies, and they'd basically kill these websites by doing massive
Yeah.
distributed denial of service attacks. And I do wonder sometimes when they've grown up, they thought, well, I'm going to start spoofing and attacking the supply chain. Hacktivism's a cool one as well, because I'm assuming if a nation state was mad but didn't want to use their resources, they could pay a hacktivist organization, and then you could kind of farm out your dastardly deeds and outsource it throughout the criminal enterprise.
Yeah, and that's actually how it works. Russia, a lot of those cyber criminals are working proxy for the Russian government. So, they have ways to try to keep their hands clean, but they're actually, puppet hackers for, the nation states.
So let's say that we do have something happens. We have if we're hopefully we have a system that would prevent it. But for those smaller carriers and stuff, and you get something like even a ransomware attack or something, what are the first steps? Because I'm assuming like you don't have a lot of leverage if someone has the keys to your crown jewels here, and they're threatening to get rid of all of your data, which includes invoices, bill tos, employee stuff, everything.
Well, let's go left of the bang. Let's go before the attack. It will be my hope, and hope is not a method, that they have done tabletop exercises and rehearsed, kind of walk through what would happen should they get attacked. And so they've done tabletop exercises. After the tabletop, they've developed incident response plans so they can know how to recover, have resiliency after the attack. So that will involve invoking their backups. Hopefully, they have immutable backups that hadn't been overridden or infected with ransomware first, because a lot of cyber criminals and attackers are so malicious that they would actually go infect your backups before they hit your network. So when you try to back up, you don't have information. So should you get hit, your incident response plan kicks in. You recover all of your critical data, and you understand your critical recovery points and critical data points, and you restore your operations, and you can get back up fairly quickly within a week. You don't want to wait till you get attacked to try to work it out as you go, because you're going to have customers calling, you're going to have law enforcement calling, employees are going to be calling, and you're going to try to need to juggle all those things at the same time while you're trying to get back up on your feet. So if you have a good incident response plan, that will help you have a smooth transition and get back on your feet.
And helping develop a response plan, if you're an organization, do you see a lot of them employ their own in-house cybersecurity expert or teams, or are there third-party teams and groups like a standard plan? I always think of the FBA hostage negotiation playbook. If I get attacked, do I have to pull out the playbook, or is there something that each one does their own?
Well, it's normally a mixture. Some people have cyber insurance within their cyber insurance policy. they're mandated to have a third-party incident response team come in and help them. Some larger companies have their own cybersecurity teams that can respond to it. So it just depends on your resources that you put forth for your cybersecurity. Smaller teams, smaller companies won't have the resources to do it in-house, so they sometimes will farm it out to a third party, have a managed service provider monitor that network, and then come in. But a lot of cyber insurance policies include that incident response and remediation in those policies.
I do wonder if part of those policies, and if I'm making a cybersecurity plan, so the first one is definitely think about what happens if I get attacked. That's probably a very important one. And in supply chain, people don't normally worry until it's an issue. So that's one of my biggest fears. But do we see the more savvier companies start penetration testing themselves, as in sending out phishing emails that they authorized, sending out ways to test their own defenses, and kind of like a white hat approach, proactively test their systems? Or is that something still in other domains, maybe like a government or a private business, not in the transportation? Do we see any of that kind of proactiveness?
People are starting to do more and more pen tests, mainly because the cyber insurance industry is mandating it. They want to try to find the vulnerabilities before the bad guys. So I highly recommend that all companies do a vulnerability assessments, pen tests, and tabletops. So it just depends. Companies that are ahead of the game are doing pen tests, and then companies that are behind the game or are not doing pen tests and maybe thinking about it. But absolutely. I come from a world of doing pen tests. I actually enjoy doing them, project managing, overseeing them. They that's the best way to find out your vulnerabilities before the bad guy does.
But it's sometimes that vulnerability, all it needs to be is one employee who likes to click every single link or send every single forwarded thing to somebody else. And you may not know within the org, which is, the people, that maybe they need corrective training. Because I've seen it where they send out the emails and they say, okay, take your cybersecurity tests, and then you just do it once a quarter. But I mean, is that one of the big things? It's like an 80-20 rule where you just got to watch out for that 20% of people in your organization that just don't pay attention.
Well, I used to say that, the hackers, um, they only have to be right once to get in, and we have to be right all the time to keep them out. 90% of all hacking is successful through phishing. That's how they get in, through something called spear phishing. The other 10% is probably through some kind of misconfiguration. Of somebody didn't secure a device or a network properly, and then there's some 0-day attacks. And normally people don't spin a 0-day attack unless it's for a very big target. So absolutely, they should. Every organization that I've been in, I've jumped up and down and said we need to do phishing tests monthly. We need to grade our employees. It shouldn't be punitive, but we need to grade our employees, train them to make sure that they don't fall for phishing attacks. They don't fall for vishing attacks where someone call and try to over the phone convince them to do things that they shouldn't do. So absolutely, that training your employees is the most important. A company can spend tens of millions of dollars on cybersecurity equipment, but if that one employee clicks on a link, then they just let them in through the back door.
And I was thinking about something. I see clearinghouses for DOT random. So carriers typically have to randomly drug test drivers in a certain cohort. I wonder if there's something, we're seeing that now with cybersecurity, maybe, where organizations will offer services and say, well, instead of, in addition to randomly testing your drivers, you need to randomly test your staff to see if they have basic cybersecurity knowledge of what not to fall for. Is that a way that maybe businesses, especially for insurance and other reasons, that maybe something in the future we should be looking for?
Well, I do know most cyber insurance policy uh, want to see your user awareness training, and within user awareness training is your phishing training. If you don't have cyber insurance, then highly recommend that you still, once you find out your risk appetite, and what you can afford to be, how long you can afford to be down with your systems, that you find a way to do phishing tests monthly, quarterly, but you need to have some kind of cadence to test your employees to make sure that they're not clicking on emails. As a hacker, the number one thing that I am depending on you to do is to be too busy to pay attention to that phishing email, to be multitasking, kind of half reading your email on your phone or on your computer, and then you click on it, and then I'm in. So you get comfortable, you get routine, and you slip up and you click on an email. I've in my earlier days fell victim of clicking on a phishing email. Um, it was the Love Me bug back in, I think it was 2004 when it first came out, or whatever year, I can't remember, but I actually clicked on it. But that was at the beginning of some of the phishing exercises. But yeah, routinely test your employees.
And looking into I have a few crazy far out questions here. 5 minutes left, of course, but I'm curious because one thing is the proliferation of APIs. I know people use EDIs, and so even as a motor carrier, you may have your own moat secured. But is there concerns from cybersecurity that those customers that you have these API connections with that are sending you order information, your ELDs, your telematics providers? Is this another new frontier where if I'm a hacker, I may say, well, I really want to go after this carrier, but I can't, but maybe I can go after the person who makes their equipment or the person who gives them freight. Is that an avenue of approach?
Yeah, if you remember Target, um, Target was breached because they went through the AC vendor. So they attacked the third party and came a backdoor from the AC vendor to Target. So yes, third party risk is a very real risk. I'm actually writing some papers now for us to publish on third party risk, but it is very real, and so you have to be concerned about your APIs because as a rule anything connected to the internet can be hacked, can be used as a weapon to attack a company. And so APIs are going across the internet. People are not properly securing them. They have zombie or dead APIs that they're leaving around and not maintaining. We're actually going to conduct a webinar this week on API security, and next month we're going to do another one, a second one on API security, and we may end up having it on at our conference as well, because again, people are now integrating their systems through the use of APIs, and attackers are now using that as a new attack vector.
So I just need your key. Once I get it, could be a dead API. I just need the key. And if I have the key, I can unlock everything. That's the fear, right?
I can unlock everything, and I can also get into your cloud environment and steal all the crown jewels in your cloud environment as well.
Trucking as well, telematics data. It's typically sent over, the little boxes and stuff for communicating. Is there ever a fear or concern that more savvier hackers, as we talk about autonomous and everything else, that folks will try to piggyback and intercept that data or find ways to fix the telematics so that way you could cherry pick what maybe if you wanted to steal a pallet or something? Is that something we're starting to see more complexity? Is that something to watch out for? Or is it still pretty easy, I'm assuming, just to get everything else? You don't even have to get next to a truck and steal the data.
Well, that is one of my biggest fears, and that is some of the research that we're doing. Trucks were never designed to be connected directly to the internet, and so because of the ELDs, the need to be able to from the enterprise reach into the truck, pull the ELD data, the trucks are now able to be hacked. Those networks were never designed to be directly connected. So now with the telematics devices, um, those networks are directly exposed, and so you have to protect those networks. Now, we haven't seen a lot of attacks that are directly attacking trucks, but our job is to do the research to see how hackers could potentially attack a truck network and prevent it. We've done some successful attacks, being physically close to the networks, but never through telematics device. But we're actually working on some of that as well. Kind of sensitive at the moment and can't really go into details, but we're just trying our best to stay one step ahead of the hackers because we know that is a vector, and sooner or later, hackers are going to figure it out.
That's
And we
my
want to do
biggest.
it before they figure it out.
Yeah, I got about a minute left. Is that kind of the fearful frontier? Is cell phone connected ELDs? All you need is a jammer. Now their logs are dead. They have to stop in a location, figure out why their logs aren't updating through the cell signal, and then bada bing, bada boom. Is that one of the worst case potential scenarios?
Well, to me, one of the worst case scenarios is being able to get through those um, telematics devices and hit a bunch of trucks at the same time, or stand up a juice jacking station at a large trucking park station, and as the drivers plug their phones up to charge their phones, I put malware on those phones. They go back and plug them in their trucks, and then I can actually hit those onboard systems when they plug those phones into the truck. So there are many avenues, and I don't want to go into too much details and tell people how to attack a truck, but there are many ways. We're trying to do the research to get ahead of the hackers.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about a lot of that at our conference um, in October in Cleveland. We've published a paper, 2024 predictions on what we expect to happen. So, go to our website and look at that paper. If you can, attend our conference. We're going to have FBI, Homeland Security. We're going to have some very interesting people come in. We're going to have some case studies to talk about cybersecurity. And so we're doing our best to evangelize cybersecurity to our members. And I would say stay tuned, come to the conference, look at our website, and attend our webinars.
Perfect. Antwan, thanks so much for your time. I am out of time, but looking forward to seeing what you all are going to be up to as well at the conference, too. We'll definitely stay in touch and keep abreast of further developments. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
That's a wrap for this show, but you can catch us every Tuesday coming up in February at 2 p.m. Eastern, changing the time back an hour, or freightwaves.com/loaded and rolling. Check them out. They are the National Motor Freight Traffic Association. A lot of great stuff going on. Don't worry, folks. I'll join you next Tuesday. We'll do it live.